Attack on Titan finally ended with the true final episode, which released recently. The manga had ended years before this, however, and from what I heard about the ending, it was horrible. Watching through Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapters, part 2, that's literally the name, I was waiting for a big terrible turn or twist that ruined the series. But it never came. However, despite IGN's 10 out of 10 review, I know quite shocking to disagree with the illustrious Imagine Games Network, the final chapter's part 2 wasn't perfect. After sitting with the story for a time, I am ready to dive into why so many people despised this ending, and why it didn't work in many aspects. The first problem is the quality of the show overall. I think the ending is pretty good. It's like a 7 or 8-ish out of 10, for an otherwise 9 out of 10 show. So comparing the incredible highs of Erwin's charges, Levi's battles, and all the insane reveals to its ending makes it disappointing, even though I think it's still good and I enjoyed watching it. With that out of the way, here's what I think is the worst part of this ending. The lack of big, powerful moments. All throughout Attack on Titan, there have been amazing, jaw-dropping moments that still stay with me. The image of the second appearance of the Colossal Titan suddenly flashing in behind Eren is burned into my mind. And Erwin's Give Your Heart's Charge in Season 2 will always be one of my favorite things in all of anime. But when I think of that final episode, not much sticks out to me. Although there is some reveals, and all the plot lines come together in a mostly satisfying way that doesn't betray the themes and feel of the show, once it was finished, I realized it was mostly forgettable. The first reason for this was the terrible release schedule. It would have heavily benefited from the final 2 parts releasing at the same time, even more so if it released at the end of Season 4. But most importantly, the way the story was told is the true problem. All of the big reveals felt mostly weightless because they were simply told to us. Eren explains the plot through conversations with Armin during different parts of their lives. By itself, this is a really cool reveal and way for the rest of the characters to know what Eren is thinking. All throughout time, Eren talked to his friends and told them what was going to happen and why he was doing what he was doing. He erased their memories of that, and when the Titan power was destroyed, they remembered it. For the most part, this is really cool, but eventually it just became a dump of information that wasn't particularly groundbreaking or surprising. The worst of these reveals is the reason for Ymir's loyalty to the king, who had killed her family and used her as a weapon, but probably not for the initial reason you would think. The general consensus of something being poorly written is usually correct, but the exact reason for it is usually incorrect. In this case, I don't think Ymir being in love with the king is necessarily a bad choice. The problem is that regardless of the reason she stayed with him, I don't care. This was set up as a big mystery to be revealed here at the end, but it really fell flat. If we were told Ymir had Stockholm Syndrome when we first learned about her story, I think I would have had the exact same reaction. The story of the Founding Titan is interesting in the way the world wars are interesting, but telling me soldiers fought and died from 1914 to 1918 in World War I doesn't have the same effect of watching the messengers journey through the trenches in 1917. I never really cared about the history of the Titans beyond the novelty of the interesting lore, and I especially didn't care about the founder Ymir, because we never experienced her story. We were just told about it. Most of the reveals fell flat for the same reason. Eren's master plan, his love for Mikasa. It was all just explained to us in mostly underwhelming conversations. It's hard to comprehend that the rumbling is the best case scenario to Eren because we didn't get to see him figuring it out. If we had gotten inside Eren's head through some flashbacks of him coming to terms with his memories of the future and the past that blended together and made his mind a mess, we could have then cut to him talking and expressing his thoughts to Armin. This way, we could better connect the story and his reasonings. The concept of living throughout your future, past, and present at the same time is incredibly cool, and it makes sense that his head is all screwed up, which probably played some role in his insane decision to commit mass genocide. But the way we know this is just that it's mentioned in a conversation. I don't think the idea of Eren explaining all of this to his friends is a bad one, but that being the only way we get this information in this finale really hurt the experience. Finally, I want to look to the author and see why exactly this went wrong. Isayama is not a bad author by any means. So much of Attack on Titan is proof of that. Most of my criticisms of this ending are not things that have persisted throughout the story. So why did he make mistakes here at the end that weren't made earlier? This is mostly speculation, but I think it's a universal problem in the realm of manga. There's a general idea that many storytellers teach. A problem in your Act 3 is most likely a problem in your Act 1. The payoff to the story is actually what you want to tell, and everything leading up to that is setting it up. So if that payoff falls flat, it's because you didn't build up to it properly. That's the basic idea, at least. In a movie, script, or novel, you can simply go back and change it. However, in the world of manga, you release the story chapter by chapter. There is no fixing Act 1. Everyone's already read it. That makes satisfying endings ridiculously difficult to craft. The other reason, I think, is that Isayama wanted to be done with it. It's very satisfying to finish a story, and nearing the end, you just want it to be over. He'd been working on the story for over 10 years. This leads to rushed endings. The pacing has always been fast, as the story constantly introduces new things and sets up stakes for the characters. But the ending, trying to pull all these things together, ended up being an information dump, and a lot of it wasn't even set up to be important. For example, Eren and Mikasa's relationship was never given much focus. She was obsessed with him, but actually having a romantic relationship was not what the story was about. So Eren telling Armin he loved Mikasa was something I didn't need to know, even though I liked seeing Eren's pitiful desperation. People that commit these kinds of heinous acts are scared, deeply insecure, and selfish. I like seeing a realistic approach to this topic, but him expressing romantic feelings for Mikasa wasn't something I cared about, because for the last 90 episodes, it wasn't something Eren cared about either. There's a lot of little complaints that I absolutely understand. Ymir falling in love with her abuser, Eren being somewhat hailed as a hero despite committing mass murder, and showing maybe too much of the future at the end. But I think the underlying problems, the lack of big moments, how we were told too much information in a short time span, and the overall rushed ending is truly what disappointed so many. The overall idea of the ending of Attack on Titan had a lot of great things going on. A melancholy ending that still achieved something very important, while also showing that humans will always be humans, feels right for the show. Some really like the ending of Attack on Titan, and other people completely hate it. A lot is up to personal preference, but in the end, the execution was not perfect. These underlying issues are often not recognized because they aren't as obvious. If it had every questionable decision implemented, but portrayed it in a more personal way, took more time to show us what Eren was thinking instead of telling us, and maybe taking the time to have a truly surprising revelation or epic character moment, would have made it a much more enjoyable experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, hi, this is Wheeze. I've been stuck in this room making videos for the past... I've lost track of time. Anyway, I'm here to tell you that you can become a member by hitting the join button after you subscribe. I've made several exclusive videos you can only watch there, including one on Erwin from Attack on Titan. Back to the first 10 people who sign up get their name on this end screen. Let me know what you think of the Attack on Titan ending in the comments. There's more videos for your consumption here as always. That's all for me. Jamyao.